Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Experts of Racing podcast. As always, I am your host, the Expert, Joshua Franks, and we are happy to bring you episode 3 as we got a lot of interesting stories, of course, a lot of stuff, a lot of controversy has been stirred up in NASCAR amongst its fans, viewers, and politics along with that, as it has with every sport. It's been really kicked up here. We also have a few headlines from F1. BDF is always going to be here with your IMSA news, but that's going to come later. Once again, joining me, I've already mentioned, Larry B. the G is here once again. Of course, he is our Formula One and I'd say pretty much one of our big open wheel racing news guys. We also have BDF 48 Gaming, our co-host, and our IMSA / part-time IndyCar news specialist. And then we also have a very special guest in the booth. It's going to be our good friend who is newly calling VER his home, Mr. Shin Lone Wolf. Hopefully we can get him on the esports podcast soon and get a get a podcast without technical difficulties put together for Shin. It'll be fun to talk with him again. Have another fun time on Virus on Forza maybe. But with that being said, let's hop right into it. Larry, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. And I hear that you have a pretty decent amount of F1 news for us, so I'll go ahead and let you hop right into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of headlines here. So, firstly, Mercedes have conducted a test with their 2018 car. They did that a couple of days ago just to get some cobwebs off the drivers, get the team back in running order and start practicing protocols for when they do go back racing next month in July. So, with Sebastian Vettel being released from Ferrari, so far the options have been Mercedes or nothing. However, it reportedly Valtteri Bottas has been told by Mercedes that his future is secure, and that Vettel is not in the running for his seat. So that is pretty interesting. And the Azerbaijan, Singapore, and Japanese Grand Prix are to be officially canceled. The next raft of races to be canceled due to the coronavirus. But that's what I've got for today for F1 news.
All right, and God, I kind of lost my footing on here. Jesus Christ. So, with right now, I think BDF might still be having technical difficulties. I'm not too sure right now, possibly, but still waiting for BDF to possibly. I think he's working on something as far as rivals go right now. So let's see if I could get this pulled up real quick. All right, so I know, Larry, that you were going over the stuff with the Mercedes. Mercedes conducting a test with you said the 2018 car. What exactly is that test going to be looking at? What are they trying to get from this test, or have they not released anything as far as that goes?
Well, as far as the test goes, it is really just protocols. They're just trying to get right back. They're trying to get into the swing of things. F1 is coming back in July with a doubleheader at Austria at the beginning of July. So Mercedes have conducted a test, as I said, the 2018 cars, just that way the drivers, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, can get right back in there and get some cobwebs shaken off. The team can practice some new protocols because of the coronavirus. And it's really just trying to get the team back into running shape and making sure that they're ready for when the season formally starts up.
Of course, and you also mentioned about those 3 Grand Prix to be canceled. Is there any plans for those Grand Prix to be rescheduled or possibly made up by other tracks in the near future?
Well, it looks like, as far as canceled goes, I do believe that would mean that they would not be running at those races this year. But there have been talks with other tracks, mainly in Europe, about trying to slot in and get as many races as we can. We do have 8 F1 races currently scheduled in the future with more to come, so hopefully we'll see some more action soon. and we'll get a
And
good, decent season.
of course, you mentioned Bottas has been told by Mercedes that his future is secure. Um, Another driver that, of course, his future has been up in the air for a while now and continues to be is Sebastian Vettel. Is there any updates on as far as what his career outlook is looking, or is it pretty well set in stone that return seems to be not favorable right now?
Well, aside from the odd Mercedes rumors and, you have those silly season rumors that always come and go, I mean, I think there's really nowhere else for him to go in 2021, I don't think. You have the empty Renault seat with Daniel Ricciardo moving out to McLaren, but I think that'll be taken by either a Renault Junior or just someone else like Nico Hulkenberg that will be. I think I just don't think Vettel will be willing to move back down to the midfield and try to work a team up from there. I think he's either going to take a year off or he's just going to hang up the helmet.
All right, and now we've been told that BDF is finally set to go. So BDF, we're going to go ahead and hand it off to you for our IMSA series or WEC series news.
We got basically nothing. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had some stuff in regards to that, but I did some. Yeah, I keep laughing. But we did get some information in. So, IMSA, the only thing that I know is I think they're gonna rerun the 6 hours at the Glen this weekend, but no one wants to watch a rerun. And then for WEC, this is like, I guess, the biggest news that I saw. So, as you guys might be aware, we ran the Torah 10th annual 24 Hours of Le Mans last year. Now, I'm not going to go on a tangent, but the race didn't really go well for some of our teams. Oh, well, it went pretty good for the other one, but anyways. So in the middle of the race, the 24 Hours of Le Mans Twitter account, like the official one, makes a statement saying that basically no organization can run a virtual race with the name 24 Hours of Le Mans under it unless you are the official virtual 24 Hours of Le Mans group that's going to do one this weekend on iRacing. And this tweet made a lot of people mad, especially since the biggest Forza race of the year, 489 drivers participated, 490 if you count real still. Actually, never mind, still 49 because, aviation. But almost 500 drivers participating in this, and in the middle of the race, Le Mans basically tried to threaten Torah to cancel the event. And many people were upset. The Le Mans Twitter account got a lot of hate, a lot of flack, and then within a few hours, they deleted the tweet. So this was probably just a pull for them to try to, I don't know, have everyone, I'm not going to say it here because we need to be PG, but everyone freaking bow down to them. No, the publicity stunt. Maybe. A publicity stunt. Yeah, it could have been.
I can't talk.
So, I mean, Le Mans a little eh. I mean, it's not really WEC, but it kind of is, because WEC does Twitter. Anyways, and then IndyCar news, since golfing isn't here. Damn you, golfing. There wasn't really much. IndyCar, actually, there was a lot. IndyCar came back this week for the Texas night race this Saturday. The viewership was about 1.8 million. Yeah, 1.8 I think, which is actually more than what the Xfinity Series race got, so it was the most watched event on Saturday. Scott Dixon was able to get the win in the number 9 Chip Ganassi Honda, and as we've seen before with Scott Dixon, this definitely gives him a good sign to go for a championship. The racing overall was not very well liked by many of the fans, but that's just that's kind of how it is for the ovals with Indy cars. The aero package isn't very nice. Plus, Texas has that PJ1, just been repaved, so there's not really any lines that you can run around there. And clean air is so important in those Indy cars. Once you get in the lead, it's hard to lose it. So, I mean, I'm not very surprised.
Certainly, and now moving forward, we're gonna look onto. We have several big stories looking at the NASCAR realm. I know BDF that you've been tiptoeing around this. We're going to get into the overviews of the past 3 races that we've missed since the last podcast that we had. So right now we're going to be looking at the results from the Food City 500, which was won by Brad Keselowski. But I really don't want to say this. Chase Elliott and Joey Logano had a little bit of contact that I will say might be Chase's fault, might be Logano's fault. I'm not going to point fingers.
It was all Chase's fault.
But a very controversial finish, I will say, in which both drivers kind of did not have a lot of favorable things to say toward each other during the post-race festivities, I'd say. But all in all, Brad Keselowski won. We talked about previously Brad Keselowski not having a strong setting at Penske. Now him having 2 wins so far this year. What's the move for Penske now? Are they looking to possibly re-sign him, or do you think it's the same old, it's over pretty much?
Well, who you asking?
Let's start with BDF.
Oh, let's start with BDF. I wonder who he is. Brad Keselowski. Now, if you guys remember, like a month ago, I had predicted some silly season stuff, including a Brad Keselowski move to the 2. Yeah, shit, I told you one. It was faster. But anyways, I had predicted that the 2 car was gonna go to Austin Cindric, and Brad Keselowski was gonna go to the 20. Now, Brad Keselowski looks a lot better than what he did before the break, and Eric Jones looks a lot better than he did before the break as well. So I don't think Brad Keselowski goes to the 20 anymore. If we're looking at the future of Penske, if you watched the race last night, I'm getting a little bit ahead of this, Penske guys did not race each other like teammates. They raced each other like, typical drivers. A lot of bumping, a lot of hitting between people. I think Blaney gave Logano the finger as he was lapping him. So Penske's sort of in this position of uncertainty, especially with you had just made a bunch of crew chief changes. I still think Brad Keselowski does not stay. And I think Cindric goes to that 2 car. I still think it happens. Now, I don't know where Keselowski ends up going because it's a very competitive driver market. But as far as I could say about the 2 car, I still don't think Keselowski's going to stay. Just because there's so much tension in Penske. Something's got to happen.
May I chime in on something on this? And this is an overall theme I'm noticing with not just with NASCAR, but with Formula One and so forth. It feels like this is like the big year for like literally any of those open drivers that are just available. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be a big amount of changes before the year even ends or before any new season starts. It's just a question, like you said, just a question of who, where, and what is going to be going anywhere. So yeah.
Of course, and talking about this, moving on. We've already seen controversy between Elliott and Busch, it being Busch's fault. Now it's Elliott and Logano, and it pains me to say it was Elliott's fault. Do you expect to see something moving down the road, knowing how Joey Logano is with these types of things? Would you expect to see some form of retaliation down the road?
To me?
To anybody, whoever wants to chime in.
As from what I've seen over the past couple of years, when it comes to just driver retaliation, who knows? Anything is possible right now. It could be 3 races down the road. It could be next week or next Sunday or whatnot. It depends on what's going to happen with how they're feeling and where they're at and everything else on the field and everything else, and if the opportunity comes. I mean, with NASCAR, has always been an unwritten rule about that, and I kind of find that a little bit too. How would you say road rage? Is it road rage much? I guess I don't know. It just feels like it shouldn't have to happen. You know, I mean, I know it's racing, but at the same time, I mean, I think these drivers should know a little bit better on that. But that's just me.
Certainly. And moving, Larry, we've asked you a similar question before. What do you think happens as Logano and Elliott move forward?
Well, I do think we'll see retaliation, to be honest, because I mean, all you can do as the driver at fault is all you can do is apologize and move on, and hope that the other guy accepts your apology. And I think, and yeah, that's all Elliott can do. I mean, that's all Kyle Busch could do after the incident with Elliott at Darlington. You know, he accidentally dumps Elliott, he apologizes, and it's been a few races down the road, and we haven't really seen anything. So I mean, I don't think we'll see anything between Elliott and Logano. If we would have seen something, I think we would have seen it in one of the past few races, but I think that's done and under the table now.
I also think that I mean, everybody's going to have that rust still after not driving for so long too. So you might want to add that into into the mix of what's been going on and everything. I mean, if it was accidental, yeah, it was accidental. I mean, completely understandable too.
And that especially goes into it's Bristol. It's a very high mistake area or high mistake track, I'd say, anyways. And there's a lot of tensions that come with Bristol. So, of course, we're gonna keep you updated as this story moves on. Moving on now to the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 at Atlanta. Kevin Harvick Harvicking his way into victory lane once again. I'd say a better performance for drivers such as Jimmy Johnson as he goes from finishing, I believe it was third at Bristol, now getting another top 10 here, finishing seventh at Atlanta. Jimmy Johnson's been kind of on a roll so far. We're going to talk about it later, but he also got another top 10 at Martinsville as well. So looking forward, of course, Kevin Harvick once again establishing himself as a competitive driver, once again winning at Atlanta, dominating at Atlanta. Looking at a lot of the drivers that finished up here, you have Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, all inside or in front of Johnson as well. But Johnson finishing seventh. Does the run that he's on right now, he's had a bad couple of years, this being his last season, is he setting himself up to be a dark horse or a good threat for the playoffs this year? Let's start with Larry.
Damn.
Well, I really thought you would have gone to someone else first, but I think he's had some
I'm
really strong.
I'm gonna leave Mr. 48 for last.
Makes a fatal mistake.
I think we've seen some really strong results from Johnson in these past few races. We've seen him get a couple of top tens, and I think he'll really have a good shot of making the playoffs this round and playoffs this year, not this round, blah blah blah. But I think we could even see him go further into playoffs, like the round of 12 or the round of 8.
I got to be honest. This reminds me of Gordon's last run, and it feels like he's doing okay now. But if he does even make the playoffs and whatnot, I think he's just going to falter in the back.
That's Gordon.
All right. Well, jeez.
That's what it feels like to me.
Well, we're gonna move to Mr. 48 himself, BDF 48 Gaming. What's your opinion on Johnson's season so far and moving forward as we head to Homestead next week?
Well, let me pull a Kellyanne Conway on you. I'm gonna answer that question a little later, but right now, like you talk about Atlanta and you talk about drivers who are like getting some momentum and doing well. I look at the Gibbs camp. Now they did terrible at Martinsville, but I look at the Gibbs camp and I look at Clint Boyer. Those are like the few drivers I want to look at, because Clint Boyer, we were talking about last year. Last year he almost missed the playoffs. Luckily, he got into the second round. He almost missed the playoffs last year. This year, he was struggling a little bit. He was doing stuff in the booth for iRacing. And everyone thought, we even said he's going to go to the booth in 2021. And I have been saying a lot that Clint Boyer is not going to make the playoffs. I'm telling you, Atlanta impressed me. Dude ran up front. Dude ran the top 5 the majority of the race. So it sucked to see a tire go down at the end. But Boyer's had a strong run. I mean, got a lot of points. I think he's sitting 12th right now in the standings, I want to say. And, you know, Martinsville, he was also running well until stuff started happening in Stage 3. But, I mean, Clint Boyer doing really well. Obviously, since I'm a Johnson fan, I have to address, you know, I definitely like where this team is going. But we'll save that a little bit that for later. But Jimmy Johnson is starting to get back to his grind. It's not anything like his championship years, but he's starting to go back to like those years in the 2000s and the early 2010s in which he didn't win a championship, but he ran well. Well.
Well,
Yeah.
well, now moving on from Hotlanta to now the paperclip. Moving on, Martin Truex Jr. Able to stick it out and win last night, as well as a lot of strong performances. Penske finishing 2, 3, and 4, and I felt like Penske's all-around best performance all year, even though they were kind of in the midst of battling each other. I saw moments to where it seemed like Ryan Blaney wasn't liking Joey Logano too well, but Brad Keselowski and Blaney were working together. Chase Elliott having a day that he really showed out. The Hendrick camp, all 4 drivers finished inside the top 10, as well as Matt DiBenedetto finishing 7th. So another Penske affiliated driver inside the top 10. Penske and Hendrick showing out. The only Gibbs car that had success was the winner. And Kurt Busch also showing speed. So looking at drivers like William Byron, Matt DiBenedetto, and Kurt Busch and those guys, I might even throw Ryan Blaney in there. All these guys that really you're not looking out as week in and week out competitors are sneaking their way in the top 10 into competitive runs. Is there any chance any one of those guys could capture the checkered flag as we head into these races, including Homestead next week?
Who is this for?
Let's go ahead and start with BDF, and then we'll go to Shin.
Okay, so I guess the question is drivers who typically don't finish, we don't look for as drivers that can go win and end up finishing in the top 10. Now, Kurt Busch is a guy that always sort of shows up at the end of these races, you know? He never has, like, the best start, you know? He doesn't get a lot of stage points. He's always up there at the end, though, getting, like, a 7th or a 9th, somewhere in the top 10. And then you also talking about DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto's sort of in the same bracket, but he generally has a little bit more stage 1 success. But honestly, out of the people you mentioned, you know, Blaney is by far the best one. Dude is flying. Dude is definitely flying. He had a very good start to the season. He had a really good start to the season, got a little unlucky at some of these other tracks, but he's always had like a top 5 car this season. Darlington sort of took him back a little, but he ran really good at both Charlotte races. Bristol, he was running in 2nd until Ty Dillon clobbered him. Atlanta, he ran well in the 3rd stage, finished in 4th. And Martinsville, he finished in 2nd. Blaney's going to get a win. I mean, I don't know when, but Blaney is going to get a win. I think all the other Penske guys on this team have multiple wins. You know, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So many 2s on that team. Blaney's the only guy with a 1 on there. He's going to get his first win. I don't know when it's going to be, but he's going to get his first win. The season, at least. He's already won a few times otherwise.
All right, now moving on to Shin. You said he took the words right out of your mouth. What's the already looking at Blaney? What's another guy that you're looking at as far as possibly going and catching a checkered flag this year?
Honestly, that's the only one I've been thinking about. Like, there's nobody else that I can see that's going to be consistent enough to be sticking it in there and whatnot. And I'm going to add on what to BDF said. I don't think it's going to be his first win of the year. I think it'll be 2 more wins of the year. So he might get at least 3 if he keeps up with it.
Okay, well, got a lot of high praise for Ryan Blaney. Now we're going to move on to what our picks are going to be for Homestead. We're all going to make a regular pick and a dark horse pick, even though we haven't seen qualifying, of course. Martinsville was just yesterday. We haven't seen what the qualifying stats or anything, the drawing or whatever it's going to be.
They draw. They drew.
They're drawing for Homestead? Okay. So we haven't seen any of that yet. So as far as this, looking at Homestead, what are some drivers that you're expecting to do well? Let's go ahead and start with Shin. Who are you looking at? Like a obvious driver that you think is going to do well, and a dark horse that you expect to do well.
Well, the way Homestead is,
Hey,
I could think
hey,
that
before
I
she
think
goes, before he goes, what are we considering dark horse? Because I don't want any of this. Chase Elliott is my dark horse pick. Let's
nah,
set
nah,
some
nah, nah.
boundaries here.
I'm
Let's.
keeping it simple.
Are
I'm
are we
keeping it
counting
simple
top
here.
12 in points as like favorites, and anything outside the top 12 is a dark horse? Is that what we're gonna do?
I would
Nah,
say, I would
I'm
say
looking at it.
including guys like, I would
I'm
say
looking at it
including
from the whole
guys like
field,
we
in my
just
opinion.
mentioned.
Yeah, I'm looking
Okay,
at it from the
so-
whole field, in my opinion. So,
Oh boy.
from how I'm just going to predict it. I'm just going to say that I think Keselowski might pull it off and get the win at Homestead, but the dark horse I'm still going to stick to Blaney because he's been hanging in there. So
All right, moving on now to BDF. What are your two drivers?
Okay. So, looking at the past few races, Homestead's going to be an interesting one because I could say we could use last year's data, but honestly, that's out the window. I mean, you have no practice, you have no qualifying. It's completely different. But somebody that always runs well at Homestead, but I mean, he has some success there, but he hasn't really had any recent success there, is Kyle. Okay, I can't say that. I think the driver
Oh
that's
my
had a lot
God.
of success. I think the driver that's had a lot of success there, but hasn't really won anything recently. And this is a guy that struggled at Martinsville too. And this is also a guy that I say that, this is a person that he's had some issues recently in the past few weeks, and I've kind of counted him out. He's not going to run well. He's not going to run well. But he always surprises me, and he runs well. And this driver is Denny Hamlin. I think Denny Hamlin wins at
Okay.
Homestead. I think he gets his third win of the season. I think he's the first to get to 3. Now, will he have it's going to be like Daytona and Darlington. He doesn't necessarily have the fastest car, but he's going to get put in the right situation at the right time, and he's going to win the race. Now, if we're talking about a dark horse, I'm just going to pick someone here that's outside the top 12 in points. I would say Johnson's a dark horse, but honestly, I don't think you consider Johnson as a dark horse anymore. Man's got 3 top 10s. Man's got a stage win at Martinsville. I don't think you can consider him a dark horse anymore, especially since he's averaging about 15 positions better at every track than where he was last year. But if we're looking at dark horses, I'm looking for somebody that's not in the playoffs right now. Or maybe in the playoffs, but a little less comfortable. Somebody that can end up running well by the end of this race. And this one is going to throw some of you guys off a little bit. Now, there was a question on Fox Sports about if all 4 Hedrick drivers were going to win a race. And everybody said, of course, and maybe not. And some person would say the question would be Byron. And so far, Elliott and Bowman have won. And Johnson has been the majority of everybody saying, is he going to be the next Hendrick guy to win? And for Martinsville for a while, it looked like, yeah. But Byron has sort of been off, but keep in mind, his crew chief has won 7 championships at this racetrack, including a race win 4 years ago. I think Byron is a dark horse to get this one done, but I think Homestead favorites the heavy favorites every time. I don't think a dark horse will even get close. But Blaney would be the closest one. So I'm picking Blaney. Not Blaney. Not Blaney.
All right.
Not Blaney. Not Blaney. Not Blaney. Byron.
Byron.
All
All right,
right.
let's go to Larry. Dark horse and a favorite.
So I do agree with Shin. I do think the Penske guys have been really fast, but I'm not going to pick the same driver he does. I say Joey Logano goes to victory lane at Homestead and gets his 3rd win of the year. Now, as
Okay.
for my
Alright.
dark horse pick, now I'm going to pick another Ford driver. And, he's been
Custer.
pretty strong. He's been pretty... No. He's been pretty strong, we've seen him run inside the top 10. He's coming off of a pretty nice top 10 finish at Martinsville. I'm going to
He's gonna
say
take the
my
Benedetto.
dark horse is Matt DiBenedetto.
Call it.
And see, that's you're gonna hate on me for this, but that was gonna be actually one of my favorites that I was looking at. I was considering too. So since you already put him as your dark
You got the
horse,
favorites
and
and
I'm
the
gonna go
dark
out-
horse is effed up expert. What the heck?
well,
I
this
think
is
we all
going to
get
be
it,
my
so to
favorite.
speak.
This is going to be my favorite. A guy that is on a team that is notorious for using his former teammate was notorious for using the Highline and being good here at Homestead.
This
I feel
boy
like
thinks,
that data might cross over.
He thinks
I'ma
the
say-
woman beater's gonna win.
I'm going
He
to say
thinks the
Kurt
woman beater's
Busch
gonna win.
might be a guy to look out for. I know you're probably going to think I'm crazy. Kurt Busch might be a guy to look out for.
I don't
But-
think you're crazy. You are crazy.
But I have kind of a mixture. I have kind of a mixture on who my dark horse is going to be that might do well. One of them is now in that 42 ride. I feel like Matt Kenseth might have I'm going to say Matt Kenseth is going to have his best performance since coming back here at Homestead. I also say a guy that has been sneakily around inside the top 15, top 10, and even at times inside the top 5 will have a chance to prove himself in the Cup Series. He's shown great speed at Homestead and in the Xfinity Series. I say Tyler Reddick is going to be a dark horse for this week as well. So
That's
I know
actually a fair point.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I can't even get mad about that one. Just the way he's moving about and everything else. So yeah, that shut me up.
So I was about to say I'm ready to accept hate, and everybody's just like, oh, okay.
That shut me up. No, say no more. That shut me up, man. So you're good. You're good.
But moving on to a lot of the, I'll say some of the biggest controversy that NASCAR has faced in a long time has received a bunch of praise, but also a bunch of dislike from a good majority of its fan base. NASCAR officially released a statement. I believe it was yesterday. I believe they released the official statement. And I quote, "The presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans, our competitors, and our industry. Bringing people together around a love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans in sports so special. The display of the Confederate flag will be prohibited from all NASCAR events and properties." And now, this brings up a lot of questions. We're also going to go over what this means moving forward, what it means bringing it up now. There's been a lot of rumors going around. NASCAR has also lifted restrictions on protests during the anthem. That's another thing that went along with this, that they removed guidelines requiring standing for the national anthem. As we saw at Atlanta, at Atlanta and at Martinsville, an official was protesting during the national anthem after NASCAR removed these guidelines. And now also the invocation is now being is being brought into question by several other factors as well. So we're going to go ahead and start with BDF. Do you believe that this is a good move, banning the Confederate flag, and what do you think NASCAR going on? What do you think NASCAR is going to do to enforce this and also make the supporters of the Confederate flag and the ones that's given the most backlash to this decision? How do you think NASCAR is going to try to move around this and keep that side of the fan base into their grasp?
Well, I think you have to look at NASCAR's roots and you have to look at NASCAR's history when you have to weigh into this decision. We talk about NASCAR, we talk about how it was based in the 40s and the 30s and how moonshine and Southern culture was truly like the essence of what NASCAR was. And in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, especially in the 90s, NASCAR started to become more, not global, domestic. It became more national, I guess. It became more national. And recently, past 20 years, past 15 years, NASCAR has been losing a lot of their support, especially in the non-Southeast. And then you also have to look at 2020. You have to look at the unjust killing of George Floyd. You have to look at the riots, the protests. You also need to look at NASCAR has an African American driver in the sport that is not being persecuted at all. And NASCAR has been making strides over the last few years to bring equality. Now, in my opinion, did NASCAR truly need to ban the Confederate flag? I feel like NASCAR wouldn't have gotten hate for not banning the Confederate flag. However, that's what makes this even more beautiful, because NASCAR didn't have to ban it. But they decided to go ahead and ban the Confederate flag, and I feel like they're doing this for 3 reasons. Number one, obviously you want to have everybody feel safe at the track. NASCAR graphics are starting to grow to many people, including African Americans, and you want to have drivers feel safe at the track, because ultimately you're going to lose more fans if they feel unsafe at the track because they see a Confederate flag compared to a bunch of white rednecks who are going to leave the track or whatever because they don't have their Confederate flags with them. That's my opinion. Number two, NASCAR is trying to get their stuff back from the 90s. They lost a lot of people over the last 20 years, a lot of fans, and this is the way they're getting back. This is also partly the reason why I feel like they came back to racing earlier than everybody else did. They're trying to get fans again. They're trying to get more people into NASCAR. They're trying to get back to where they were before. And the strides that NASCAR is making, especially with the banning of the Confederate flag, I mean, it shows. I feel like a lot of very deep, I won't say deep-rooted fans, but fans that deem the Confederate flag as heritage over hate are going to leave the sport. They're going to leave NASCAR. And I think NASCAR knew that. They knew making this decision that they were going to have risks and rewards. But I feel like NASCAR is starting to become the model. That's number three. I feel like NASCAR is trying to make itself a model. They're trying to make themselves look better, saying, hey, our past is not as good as it could have been, and we're trying to make ourselves up. We're trying to make ourselves show that everybody is welcome, everybody is inclusive, and that NASCAR is being able to evolve and keep up with the times. So in my opinion, I think they did it perfectly. I think NASCAR getting rid of the Confederate flag was the right decision. It's going to make a lot of people mad, but I think everybody will get over it and understand that it was the correct. It was a considerably good idea to do. Now, how are they going to mandate this? This is fun. This is fun to talk about. Because how do you even do that? Somebody shows up to the track with the Confederate flag and say, leave, put it away or leave. This could turn into a lot of fights. But NASCAR's going to have to deal. They're going to have to try to play around with stuff. The good thing with NASCAR in these next few weeks, they are allowing fans of the track, but there's not as many. So they can sort of, if somebody does try to bring a Confederate flag, you know, they can trial run and see what's going to happen. So it's going to be very interesting. I don't have an answer, but I was talking to somebody earlier. They said, you know, smart businesses, smart corporations are eventually going to get the answer. NASCAR is one of those smart businesses and smart corporations. I think they'll get an answer. The question is, what are they going to do with it, and when are they going to do it? So, yeah, that's just my two takes.
And that leaves a big thing that we're going to have to look and update as we move along. Of course, Talladega being notorious for NASCAR fans that support Southern heritage. There's been quotes that even Bubba Wallace has said. Even Bubba Wallace has said that he has never seen that many Confederate flags in one place at one time. So moving to Talladega, they're allowing 5,000 paying fans to go into the track. So it's going to be interesting to see how they enforce it there, being that the first track that it's really going to be looked upon. NASCAR tried this 3 years ago and had no way of enforcing it, so it kind of got swept under the rug that they prohibited the flag a few years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to move forward with this and enforcing it the second time around. We're also going to bring Shin Lone Wolf. Of course, you've been a NASCAR fan for a while. You're part of the African American community and the group of fans of NASCAR. What's your viewpoint on this? And moving forward, what do you think NASCAR could do to make even bigger strides than this moving forward?
All right, so here's my personal take on it. Okay. Now, I've been watching motorsports since I was like 6 or 7 years old. Okay, I'm in my 40s. For those who are listening, I've seen the ups and downs on anything and everything when it comes to race and equality and everything else when it comes to motorsports itself, you know? And it's kind of hard for me to even pinpoint the overall, like BDF hit it on the dot when it comes to, yeah, they did the right thing, okay? And don't get me wrong, I personally just say, yes, that is a great move for NASCAR to do at this time, okay? As far as those that are just, I guess I'll just be blunt about it. I mean, yes, it's the right move that NASCAR is doing and everything else, but for those that are hating it, I'm sorry, but I don't see anything wrong with it at all, you know? That's the equivalence of saying that they're banning the Confederate flag and everything else is the same thing as saying I'm going to go to a NASCAR race and everything else, and I'm going to carry a Nazi flag on me and everything else, you know. And I hate to say it like that, but that's how I feel about it. Now, what NASCAR can do moving forward, it's going to take them a while. It's going to take them a while to get this completely done. It's not going to be done overnight. I feel that they are going to have. I feel they're going to have a little bit of a struggle in the beginning and everything else when it comes to, like BDF said, Talladega is just, it's just there, you know. And I lived in Alabama, so I already seen it from top to bottom about how once that flag is flown around all over the place, you know. I personally feel that sooner or later, in all aspects and everything else, everybody's going to move on. There's going to be no ifs, ands, or buts about it and everything else. And the way things are changing right now in this country and just in the world itself and whatnot, it just goes to show that, you know, in order to keep everything at peace and at bay when it comes to whatnot, things have to change. That's number one. Number two, you're going to have to accept those losses and consequences and everything else. You know, the truth of people will definitely come out, and those that you lose and everything else, knowing that you made that decision, then it is what it is. So how NASCAR is going to implement all this in the long run, I don't know. Nobody knows. But what they did was the right thing to move on. I mean, I've gotten to the point where it just became second nature of seeing that flag flying all over the place in NASCAR races, and it's just like, okay, it is what it is, you know. I never questioned it, I never bothered with it and everything else. And it's just like, okay, it just is, it's just there. So at the same time, it's like, okay, sooner or later they're going to have to remove it, and they did. So, yeah.
Well, also adding on to that, we're going to go to Larry on this one to start this one out and make our way back around. With this movement of inclusiveness that NASCAR is on, there's also rumors that they're planning to stop the invocation before the races. Larry, what's your opinion on that? Do you think that at that point it's going too far, as many people have pointed out, or do you think that's just what NASCAR is going to have to do in their goal to make NASCAR more open to everybody?
No, I think that'd definitely be going too far. The invocation has been, like, it's been, what's the word? Like, it's been part of, like, the pre-race ceremonies of NASCAR for as long as I can remember. Like, it's been around for a while, and I think they can't just do away with it. Now, like, of course I can try to ask the people do it, like, hey, can you, like, tone down a bit and not be like, oh, praise God for what we have, no, and just try to tone it down, but I don't think they should do away with it completely.
And now moving on to BDF, what's your viewpoint on the situation as far as that goes?
Gentlemen, please rise as our colors are presented by the United States Army National Recruitment Center.
Well,
We're gonna get copyright. Yeah, that's gonna get
Pastor of
some
Family
monetization.
Fitness Church in Lebanon, Tennessee.
oh man.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you brought before us. Thank you for the Dodges and the Toyotas. Thank you for the Fords. And most of all, we thank you for Rouse and Yates partnering to give us the power that we see before us tonight. Thank you for
Copyright strike, here
performance
we come.
technology and the RO7 engines. Thank you for Sunoco Racing Fuel and Goodyear tires that bring performance and power to the track. Lord, I want to thank you for my smoking hot wife tonight, Lisa. My
Whoa,
two
whoa.
children, Eli and Emma, or as we like to call them, the little E's. Lord, I pray you bless the drivers and use them tonight. May they put on a performance worthy of this great track. In Jesus' name,
Buddy, amen.
Okay, that had to be some type
Now,
of
if you guys
skit
are
or something,
telling
man.
me that the invocation should be removed, I think there's a big problem. Because it's very ironic, the last time they went to Nashville, that happened. And Nashville just got announced for a race date, something you missed, Xpert. And Nashville just got announced for a race date in 2021, a replacement for Dover. I think it's very, very coincidental that they tried to remove the invocation along with bringing this heavenly racetrack with this heavenly pastor to eat him out. I feel like the suggestion to remove invocation is going too far. I don't think it's ever going to be taken seriously by NASCAR, just because when you do an invocation, it does the opposite of the Confederate flag to most people. When you talk about the invocation, you pray for the safety of the drivers, you know, that the race goes well, nothing terrible happens, and I think this is a great thing. And I don't think anybody can take offense to the invocation. If you aren't a Christian, then you probably just don't care about it. Like, let's be honest here.
I'll keep it more simple. Take any sport in this world right now. No matter what, teams and players, coaches, etc., they all will say some type of prayer and everything else before they even take on the field, the court, whatsoever. I mean, that's all just. It's just all just about, hey, it's the safety of the players. I mean, take the NFL, for example. When you see a player majorly get hurt and everything else, like literally, you see a group literally sitting there on one knee.
What do you tell them to do? Just
teams,
don't pray for the guy who's injured?
Exactly.
NASCAR, you just do it before it happens.
You see players on both teams in a group and everything else on their knees praying, making sure that person is going to be okay. I mean, it would be ludicrous for someone to be like, well, let's just remove it from NASCAR or from any other motorsport and everything else. Get out of here.
It's probably just crazy fans.
I mean, what was the guy's name in Formula 2 last year that died at Spa?
You bear?
I forgot. Yeah. The moment of silence they had and everything else, like literally, like everybody stopped what they was doing, got together, prayed, had their moment of silence, and moved on. But at the same time, they was also making sure that, hey, we gotta be careful ourselves and all. You know, it just feels ludicrous for someone to say, oh, well, let's remove that and everything else. No. And you're right, BDF. NASCAR does take it a little bit less seriously, everything else, but at least at the same time, they have an understanding knowing that, okay, well, we guys got to keep it safe. You know, that's just for anybody and everybody.
I think if you are NASCAR, or if you are NASCAR, but I think the invocation brings no negativity.
No.
If you are an atheist or a Muslim or Buddhist or whatever religion you want to practice and you hear the invocation, I mean, you kind of just don't care about it, you know? You kind of just ignore it. You let the race move on as normal. If you are a African American going to a racetrack and you see a freaking Confederate flag right in front of your face, I think that brings a little bit more distaste. Now, I could be totally wrong because I'm Caucasian, suburban, hard evangelical, 2-story house, but I mean, could be totally wrong here.
Well, with that being, we got all the opinions out of the way on that. I believe that's all the NASCAR news for right now. Of course, a lot more stories are developing as we are talking right now, but just want to go ahead and be sure to shout out tomorrow. Be sure to go to one of our partners' Twitch channel. It's going to be twitch.tv/VER_network. I'll be on the call with hopefully Golfin 247 as we get ready to call IndyCar racing. I believe start time on the stream should be sometime around 8:30. So going to be having a lot of fun there tomorrow night as well. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube if you're watching live, or even if you're watching this when it gets posted to the YouTube next week. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to follow us on Twitch. And also be sure to check out our other videos listed below as well. This is episode 3, so go ahead and check out the past episodes that you missed already. Of course, be sure to keep in contact. Press the notification bell to be alerted time. We have a new post on the channel. A lot of fun content is going to be coming out and coming up soon. With that being said, I want to definitely thank Shin Lone Wolf for joining us this evening, being a guest along with the rest of the experts this evening. And of course, for the usual cast of characters, BDF48 Gaming and Larry B the G. Definitely a fun night this evening. And yeah, I can't wait for the Experts of Esports podcast next week. So with that being said, we would like to thank you for joining us this evening, or joining us on the YouTube channel as well. And we will see you guys when we see you guys